Speaking of Schaumburg, I'm Village President Al Larson. In this episode, I'll be talking with Kathy Blecker from Spring Valley Nature Center about the many types of birds that call the center home. Then, members of Schaumburg's Green Team will be here to discuss the upcoming community recycling event. We'll finish the program with guests from the not-for-profit organization Feed My Starving Children, who'll tell us about their mission and the new Schaumburg location. All of this and more today. And speaking of Schaumburg. Spring Valley Nature Center is a refuge of fields, forests, marshes, and streams that many native animals call home. With me to talk about some of the various types of birds that reside at Spring Valley is licensed falconer Kathy Blecker and her falcon, Kuma.
Actually, a hawk.
Oh.
Do you want to start
well, tell me the difference between a hawk and a falcon. I thought falcon was a kind of a general term.
No, falcon is a particular type of species, okay? And they're the only ones that are on Spring Valley's property are kestrels. But hawks, there are Cooper's hawks and red-tailed hawks.
Kestrel, that's a sparrowhawk, isn't it?
Yes, it is. That's the common name for it.
Sure.
So a falcon is usually a smaller, lighter, faster-flying bird, and this is the Cadillac of birds, the red tail, a little heavier, and they fly slower, and they do not have the nasal apparatus that helps them to breathe from high altitude.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So they hunt at treetop level? Or?
Red tails are treetop level, but they will soar to about 1,000 feet, and they'll glide, and sometimes you see 3 or 4 of them together. It can be a parent group.
Riding a thermal or something?
Yes, they ride the thermals, and then they also search out mates or prey by doing the same things, riding the thermals.
Now, how long have you had Kuma?
Okay, I've had her a year, and she's an excellent bird. She has a good hunting sense, but she's also a very polite bird. She is easy to deal with and a pleasure to have and care for.
So, polite. How does a...
Some birds will attack for no reason at all, but she will sit and wait for the hand to go up, and then she comes directly to the hand, sits there quietly. Or if there's food there, she's very good about eating her food and not really flinging it side to side. So she's very easy to care for.
Okay. Now, the bird is how old?
She's 3 years old.
3 years old. Where was she before?
She was out in the wild, and she was a passage bird from the nest and trapped up in the Illinois Beach State area, just north of there.
Wait, what do you mean a passage bird?
Out of the nest is meaning passing from the nest going into the wild. And they usually are trapped when they are passage birds because they are easier to get from the wild, and they also are usually hungry. The parents teach them how to hunt, but the problem is if they don't do it often enough to survive, they will come down on a trap with food in it, and then that is the way falconers usually catch their birds.
Okay, all right. How long have you been doing this?
I've been flying birds for about 12 years, and she's stretching, so she will, there we go. I don't want you to become alarmed.
I don't want to become alarmed either. Those are serious talents.
She may pull it up into her feathering, and she's going to shake in a minute. You going to shake? There you go.
How'd you know that?
Well, it's called rousing, because when I start to see the feathers fluffing up, that means she's a little more relaxed now.
Ah, okay. Getting used to my voice, maybe?
Yes.
And these techies out there are far enough away.
She's comfortable.
Now, she's she.
It is a she.
Yeah, red-tailed hawks are native to this area, aren't they?
They are. They're very prominent, and they're very adaptable to different types of habitat, even overcrowding, like in villages, like in Schaumburg. They're quite prevalent in the area, and they tend to sit on the lights on expressways and along the roadways.
I've seen those. I've seen that.
And they are basically marking their territory and then looking for a mate or looking for food.
Okay.
So when they're up there, watch the head, and it'll turn, and it'll keep scanning.
Have they nested in Spring Valley?
Yes, they have. We have one nest that was active last year, and it was active the year before also.
Okay.
And it was a successful nest. They had a passage bird come out of it, and they're doing quite well. They tend to eat all the rodents, snakes, and other small mammals on the property.
Okay. What about, what does she hunt when you take her hunting? And where do you go when you take her hunting?
Usually it's out in the farm country, and it will be in a warehouse area where there's big open patches of land, and they will hunt rabbits, mice. She will tend to go for rabbits, but I also bring along bagged pheasant or partridge, and I get those from Max McGraw. Wildlife over on Route 25.
So you've seen her hunting in action. I mean,
yes.
you let her. You take the hood off and.
Yes, take the hood off, put the bells on for the hunting.
Why the bells?
So I can tell where she is. If she goes down in a tall field of grass, she will move and I will go to the sound before I may not be able to see her. Some of the grass is like 4 and 5 feet tall.
Sure.
So I will go to her, put down food that I bring along that I know is healthy, and then put my hand over the wild food and pull it away. And she allows that. We hunt together.
Oh, okay. Now what's the largest game that she's caught?
Pheasant.
Pheasant?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
That pheasant's quite a bit larger than she is.
They're about the same size.
Okay.
Yeah, they're about
Must
the same
be the plumage
size.
that gives that impression, perhaps.
Yes. Their plumage is quite good, and it's beautiful, but she will go for a pheasant. And that would be bagged or wild.
Now, does she catch her prey, pheasant or other birds, in the air, or knocks them down? What's the procedure?
Both. They will be on the ground, and if they don't get away fast enough, she catches them on the ground, or if they fly up a couple of feet, they aren't high flyers. She will catch them in the air also and grab them with her claws or talons and take them down.
You've seen that?
Yes. And it's a privilege to hunt with her. I mean, it's amazing to watch.
Now, are you licensed to have birds?
Yes, I'm licensed to have birds, and it takes a long process to get a license. First, you have to go through training with raptors and how to handle them. Usually you do education or rehabilitation, which I've done both. And then you find a sponsor, you build a caging or what's called a mew, and then you have the game warden come in and he inspects your mew, making sure it's safe and correct for the bird and has enough space on the inside. So once you go through all these steps, and then you take a test from the state of Illinois, and that test is honored by the feds also. And then you go out and trap your bird.
Now, she has an unusual name.
Yes, her name is Kuma.
Yes?
Okay.
What does that mean?
It means Italian. It's Italian for girlfriend. So
Kuma.
she is a female, and it is a nice name for her.
Do you have more than one bird?
Yes, I do.
And what else do you have besides
I have
Kuma?
a Eurasian eagle owl. They're the largest owl in the world, and his name is Jack, and he's been imprinted from birth. He is not a native owl, so he can never be released.
I think you had her in Spring Valley at one point, and
we had him for Halloween.
Yeah, and in the parking lot, you were taking.
Oh, you saw him when he was a baby.
Yeah, a baby. Yeah. That was a big baby.
Yeah, this big baby is 8.5 pounds now. He's one big owl, but he's hard to handle because of his weight. But he's very accommodating. He's very gentle.
Thank heavens for that. I suspect you wouldn't have it that long ago.
If he was aggressive, I would. He's in mating season right now, so he's a little more aggressive than normal, but he treats me very nicely. So there is a relationship, a trust between the two of us.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, this tall? This tall?
Jack stands, let's see, he's 2.5 foot tall, and he has a 7-foot wingspan.
Well, I'm glad it's you doing this, but it's a beautiful bird, And Kathy, can I shake your hand?
She certainly can.
Okay, thank you for being here, Kathy.
Okay, you're welcome.
And Kuma, thank you for being here. Eyeglasses, Christmas lights, and car batteries. I'll tell you what they all have in common next, here on Speaking of Schaumburg. Every spring, the Village of Schaumburg co-sponsors a community recycling event. Here now to talk about this year's program are Martin Matreger and Martha Dooley. Both are members of the Village's Green Team. Welcome. Welcome to Speaking of Schaumburg. Now, what the Green Team, what's this Green Team thing?
The Green Team is made up of 14 staff members from the village, and it's representatives from all the departments. We meet monthly to talk about our comprehensive green action plan and to implement some of the goals that are in the plan.
Well, what are some of the goals?
Some of the goals have been in the past an anti-idling protocol for all the village vehicles, as well as the Energy Star Pledge, getting people to sign on to commit to reducing their carbon emissions and the electric that they use in their homes, as well as just looking at some of the other codes and seeing how we can change them and how we can implement some more maybe environmental practices into our garbage contract, things along that line.
Martin, what do you do?
I'm a logistics coordinator for the Engineering and Public Works. I help manage the contract, the garbage and recycling contract, but one of the things that I also do is help increase the amount of recycling both internal within the village itself, and then of course outside the village, to give people opportunities to recycle anything that they need to recycle.
What are some of the things within the village that you concentrate on?
Well, one of the things we did was we made sure that everybody had a recycling bin by their desk so that they had the opportunity to recycle papers, plastics, glass, even metals. Before, a lot of that stuff was getting tossed in the garbage. And also make sure that our janitorial services keeps to the code, basically, and make sure that they separate that stuff and put it in the right dumpster so it does get recycled.
Okay. Now, you guys have brought a bunch of stuff here. What do we have?
Well, our recycling event that we have on April 23rd this year.
Where's that going to be?
That's going to be at School District 54 office. It's 524 East Schaumburg
Right
Road.
across the road from the Village Hall, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, it is. And they're providing a lot of recycling opportunities for folks to take advantage of. It's probably the biggest event we're going to have thus far. We've had it on an annual basis. We started on our own, but then we teamed up with School District 54 to increase our efforts.
Good partnership.
Yes, and this year we added Schaumburg Township Library has added to the event itself too.
Okay, that's good. What they bring stuff from their facility over to the recycling area?
Well, they're actually going to help by help sponsor the event along with actually participate and volunteer their time.
Okay, that's where you pull up and you got the stuff in your trunk and they carry the stuff out of your trunk and.
Yep, we try to make it so you don't even have to leave your car. We'll take everything out of your car for you as you drive through, and there's a lot of opportunities this year that there weren't in the past.
What are the hours of the event?
It's from 10 a.m. till 3 p.m.
Okay, all right. Tell us about some of the things that residents can bring to the recycling event.
Well, we wanted to celebrate Earth Day and provide a lot of different things to recycle. The electronics alone, it's going to be printers, TVs, monitors, keyboards, telephones, cell phones. You can even bring microwaves, small appliances, hair dryers, curling irons, just about anything you could think of electronic-wise, microwave and smaller, that you could bring to the event. On top of that, we're also adding oil and antifreeze this year. You can come bring your old oil and antifreeze.
Well, Martha, show me what you have here.
Well, in addition to our regular electronics that we take pretty much every year, we will also be taking cell phones, household batteries, as well as automotive batteries this year, CFL light bulbs.
Automotive batteries, the big ones?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We have a new vendor that's coming this year to take those for us. Holiday lights, any sort of electric cords, extension cords, things of that nature. We'll be taking American flags. Also, we'll be taking eyeglasses. And I think that's a pretty good list. We also have at the event document shredding. So if anybody has some personal or private documents they'd like shredded, they can even wait on site to make sure that their box of materials has been actually shredded.
Now, what happens to the materials once they're brought there? I mean, what?
Most of the electronics are all held within the United States itself. We don't send anything overseas. Everything's properly dismantled. Torn apart, the metals are extracted from the plastics are separated, the glass is separated. A lot of the monitors, picture tubes like TVs and stuff like that have to go through a special process to extract the lead from the glass so that it doesn't harm the environment or the people that are working on it, and that's all done in a professional building within the United States.
We have a contract with some company that...
Creative Recycling Solutions is providing the services for us. Okay. They basically are taking care of all the electronics.
You know for a fact that none of that stuff is being shipped overseas, right?
Yes, they are certified. They basically are certified by the EPA. They have the documentation to prove that too.
Okay, all right. I know there was a special, I don't know if it was on 60 Minutes or about companies promising to do this and then just shipping them overseas and polluting over there.
Yeah, the key is to make sure that they are certified, and we did thoroughly go through and check their documentation to make sure that they are, doing everything according to the standards of the EPA.
Now, how are you getting the word out on this, Martha?
Well, we've created a webpage on the villageofschaumburg.com website. If people go to the green corner, they can look up information on our recycling event. We also printed up some flyers and gave that to the environmental committee members that are distributing those throughout the village. And the library is also helping to get the word out. We've put some information in the electronic newsletter, and we also put an article in the Cracker Barrel that the winter issue.
Now, what kind of recycling does the village do? We do. I know you mentioned we talk to our janitorial service to make sure that things aren't intermingled. But don't we have in place some kind of codes or ordinances as far as the business community is concerned?
Yeah, the business community, they contract for their own garbage removal and recycling, but they are required to provide us a plan of what they're going to recycle and how their garbage is taken care of when they come in for approval. In addition, the multifamily home developments and those bigger residential developments, they also have a recycling plan on file with the village. And we send our inspectors out to make sure that they're complying with their requirements. Okay,
because I know from time to time we'll get folks who want to know do we have commercial recycling in town, because they're concerned about the environment.
Oh yeah, they definitely have to recycle.
Now, you mentioned the green team. There's also an environmental committee, isn't there?
Yeah, the environmental committee is made up of 9 Schaumburg residents. We meet on the 3rd Thursday of every month. And some of the other initiatives that we're involved in, they do 4 Adopt a Highway dates and clean up Schaumburg Road. And in addition to that, we do an environmental fair in the fall. They also do the annual landscape award program.
The environmental fair, where does that take place?
This year, it's tentatively scheduled for November 4th and 5th. It's going to be a 2-day event, and we're looking to partner with the Delta Institute on it's a new format for us this year. The Friday will be the business community, and Saturday, the 5th, will be geared toward residents.
And where is that?
It's going to be at Roosevelt University. The hours and the specifics are not planned out yet. We're just in the beginning stages of the
So you're
plan.
still working with Roosevelt to put the details together, huh?
Yeah, Roosevelt has begun a new sustainability curriculum, undergraduate program, and they're also proposing to change some of their turf grass lawn out to native prairie grasses and so on.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, we're thrilled with the changes.
I know we did something as far as Motorola was concerned, didn't we?
Yeah.
In terms of eliminating some of the turf grass that's there?
Yeah, they eliminated about 7% of their overall campus and put it back into native plantings.
Okay, all right. Now you work hand in hand with a little bit with the Park District too, don't you? It's Spring Valley, no? Yes? Environmental Committee?
Well, we have some members on the Environmental Committee that also volunteer at Spring Valley.
Okay.
And so they do bring their knowledge from there to the committee, and it's very helpful.
That would be the Meos, I think, for one.
Yeah.
Tony and Sandy
Tony
Meo.
and Sandy, yep.
Yeah,
They're really great members.
If somebody wants to be on an environmental committee, what do they do?
Well, if they're interested, they would submit a letter to you or give me a call, and I'm happy to talk with them about what the committee does and things along that line. I can let them know if there are any vacancies. Right now, we're full.
Yeah. But we'll keep the letter on file.
We like to keep the letter on
Absolutely.
file just in case something comes up, and then we have some names to draw from.
Well, Martin, hey, thanks for being here.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Martha,
Thank you.
It's good to see you again. In 2010, this not-for-profit organization provided over 125 million meals to starving children around the world. I'll talk with them about their mission and their new Schaumburg location next, here on Speaking of Schaumburg. Feed My Starving Children started in 1987 in Minnesota, and since then has expanded to include their latest site right here in Schaumburg. With me now from the organization are B. Peterson, Chicagoland Development Director, and Alan Loeb, Assistant Operations Manager. B, Alan, welcome to Speaking of Schaumburg.
Thank you.
Well, tell us a little bit about your role in Feed My Starving Children. What do you do, and what is the goal?
Well, my role is primarily to do site development and fundraising for the organization to make awareness of Feed My Starving Children in the organization. We are, as you know, a hunger relief organization, and our mission is feeding God's starving children hungry in body and spirit. And our approach to world hunger is very simple. Volunteers of all ages, whether they're 5 or 95, pack nutritious meals, which were designed by food scientists targeted at starving children, the most severely malnourished child. And those meals are then distributed to missionaries and humanitarian organizations all over the world. And these missionaries and organizations are embedded in these countries. They are working with orphanages, schools, refugee camps, street feeding missions. They're already working, so we didn't have to reinvent the wheel. We were able to get the food right to the most needy people.
Where's your site here in Schaumburg?
It is located at 1072 National Parkway.
Okay, that's north of Gulf Road, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Okay. And what is your role, Alan?
Assistant Operations Manager, so I'm in the operations area where I'm also a site supervisor for the Schaumburg site. So I deal with inbound, outbound trucks, with the volunteers wanting to sign up to volunteer for us, any issues that come up at the site, on site. So yeah.
How many staffers do you have? How many people do you have working for you at that location?
At that location?
Not the volunteer staff, but the paid staff.
Paid staff, I office out of there. We have three other people that office out of there, and then we have 7 part-time people.
Okay, all right. And typically, where do you get your volunteers from? I mean,
everywhere. Probably our biggest volunteer base is churches, but schools, scout troops, sports teams, all kinds of different things. People that have birthday parties there, neighborhood friends,
people who want to do something.
Extended families. Yeah.
Obviously, people believe in your mission, and who would not? I mean, feed my starving children. What's your, you mentioned missionaries, and you mentioned, how do you get into, let's say, Africa? I mean,
Well, we don't really have any problem getting into these countries. We work, as I said, with organizations who really seek us out for food.
Okay.
That's their main need. And that's all we do is provide food.
Okay.
It's our one objective, to get food to these most starving children. These organizations seek us out, and we have primary distribution partners, large organizations that travel all over the world and distribute our food to smaller partners. So we have literally hundreds of partners throughout the world through these larger distribution partners. They are in Africa, they are all over the Southeast Asia, they're in South America, we're in India, we're in Haiti. A fourth of our food goes to Haiti. We have over 200 mission partners in Haiti alone. We don't deal with any government organizations.
You must have quite a list of organizations then, because you keep adding to it. I mean, how do you keep up?
Well, we're a sustaining organization first and foremost. So once we take on a partner, that partner remains with us until they reach self-sustainability, which means they don't need the food anymore. That's very rare in the cases that we deal with, because most of our partners are doing other sorts of mission work. They're doing education, they're doing agriculture, they're doing micro-enterprise. They're also bringing on new people into their missions. So if they get some people out of the realm of poverty, then new people come into it, and so there's still more people that they have to feed. So we continue to sustain them. We only take on new partners when we know we have the volunteer base, the funds to bring in the raw materials, to pack the foods. It's a complete cycle, and then we can distribute the food to the needy people. So we'll only take on new partners when we know we can produce enough food to feed them.
How often do you ship the food? I mean, you've got people who are volunteering, and they're packaging the food, and I suspect that's probably a package right there that is being packed. And,
right, this is what it is.
And it's got directions on there, and how it to be used. And how do you educate people who have starving children about the necessity to have water that's clean and clear?
Yeah, they know that they need clean water. What we focus on is just the food.
Okay.
We know that there's other organizations doing great things with clean water supplies, with housing and that kind of thing. There's people out there preaching the gospel. What we focused on is the food, and we feel like we're pretty good at it. That package right there is 6 meals, 6 one-cup meals. When you mix that with water is what it'll provide. In there is all the daily nutrients that a kid between the ages of 5 and 8 would need.
Do you focus on a certain age, or is it just anyone?
Whatever the need is. The food was specifically designed for a 5 to 8-year-old child. It was designed by food scientists. Okay. In the meal, there's over 20 vitamins and minerals that they put in there, knowing that that's what a child needs to not just survive, but eventually thrive, if that's all they get. And many of the kids that are getting this food, that is all they get. There are adults in some of these places that are eating the food too, which it's fine for them. So,
who are some of your major sponsors? I would imagine, of course, everybody needs money for something like this. Where do you get your funds from?
Most of our funds come from individuals, are volunteer-based. As I said, we're a not-for-profit organization, so we rely on donations to support buying our raw materials, our boxes, our bags. 94% of all those donations go right back into the food program. We have a lot of our money comes from churches and their mission funds. Some of our money comes from corporate and foundation donors.
What are some of the major corporations that participate in the program?
UPS comes nearly once a month to pack. They're very competitive in their packing. They love to try and beat the bunch before them how many meals they can pack in a 2-hour session. We have Best Buy, we have Office Max, Hallmark Financial. We've got a pretty good list of corporations that enjoy the competitiveness. It's team building. It's really a great opportunity for someone
It's feeding starving children.
Feeding starving children, and it's a hands-on service project. Makes you feel better. That's what we say when we're feeding the spirits of those.
Now, what time of year do you typically get the most volunteers and the most donations?
Around the holidays, November, December are always our busiest time.
Okay.
There's something about Thanksgiving and Christmas that just brings out the best in people. They want to do good for other people. They want to reach out, and along with volunteers, for us go donations.
Now,
so those are also the biggest donation months.
Who are they going to contact? Let's say I want to make a donation. I want to set up an event with the people I work with. Who do they contact and what number do they call?
Two separate things. To actually volunteer, you go onto our website, which is www.fmsc.org. So it's the first letters of feedmystarvingchildren.org. In the upper right-hand corner, you click Register to Volunteer, follow the steps, and you can sign up a group. So that's the volunteering part. B can take the donation part.
You can also register online to donate. There's a donate button that you can donate right online, or you can send your donations to Feed My Starving Children at 1072 National Parkway, Schaumburg, Illinois, 60173, or you can call 847-519-9605.
Well, it's good to be meeting with you. You're changing the world for a lot of people.
Thank you.
You're doing good, and please keep doing good here in Schaumburg. We'd love to have you here.
Well, thank you.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That'll do it for this edition of Speaking of Schaumburg. Join us again next month for another all-new episode. Until then, I'll see you around town.